Welcome to the channel Old Glory Coins. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people walk past Jefferson Nickels every single day, tossing them into jars, leaving them in cup holders, or spending them without a second thought. But here's the thing. One specific Jefferson nickel from 1977 could be worth an absolutely staggering $43 million. Yes, you heard that right. $43 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the ground. This isn't some ancient Roman treasure or a gold doubloon from a shipwreck. This is a nickel, a simple 5-cent piece that could be hiding in your collection, your grandmother's drawer, or even that old piggy bank gathering dust in your attic right now. The 1977 Jefferson nickel represents one of the most extraordinary opportunities in modern coin collecting. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for. But before we dive deep into this incredible 1977 treasure, let me tell you something that'll keep you glued to your screen. The coins we're covering today are absolutely mind-blowing. And trust me, you haven't heard anything yet, because after we explore this $43 million wonder, we're going to reveal another Jefferson nickel that's worth even more, sitting at a jaw-dropping $63 million. Can you imagine? So stick with me until the very end, because you do not want to miss what's coming. And who knows, maybe you're sitting on one of these fortunes right now without even knowing it. Now, let's talk about why the 1977 Jefferson nickel has become such a legendary piece in the numismatic world. The Jefferson nickel series began back in 1938, replacing the beloved Buffalo nickel, and it was designed by Felix Schlag, who won a competition held by the United States Mint to create a coin honoring Thomas Jefferson, our third president, and one of the founding fathers who drafted the Declaration of Independence. The design features Jefferson's profile on the obverse and his iconic home, Monticello, on the reverse, and for decades, these nickels were minted in massive quantities at facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The 1977 nickel was no exception, with millions upon millions produced during a time when inflation was rising and the American economy was going through significant transitions. But here's where things get fascinating. Within those millions of ordinary 1977 nickels, certain error coins were created, mistakes that happened during the minting process that transformed common pocket change into numismatic gold. One of the most sought-after errors from 1977 is the double die obverse, or DDO, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly between impressions, creating a doubling effect on the design elements, particularly visible on the date, the word liberty, and even Jefferson's profile itself. When you examine a 1977 DDO nickel under magnification, you'll see this ghostly doubling that immediately sets it apart from regular strikes, and collectors go absolutely crazy for these specimens. Another incredible error that can appear on 1977 nickels is the off-center strike, where the blank planchet wasn't properly aligned in the press, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing and you can actually see the blank edge of the coin showing through. The more dramatic the off-center percentage, the more valuable the coin becomes, with some specimens showing 30, 40, or even 50% off-center strikes commanding enormous premiums at auction. Then there's the wrong planchet error, where a nickel design was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine a 1977 nickel struck on a dime planchet or even a quarter planchet. These mind-boggling mistakes are extremely rare, and when they surface, auction houses erupt with bidding wars that send prices into the stratosphere. But what makes certain 1977 nickels worth millions isn't just the error itself. It's the condition combined with the rarity. You see, coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect. And when an error coin also happens to be in pristine, gem, uncirculated condition, that's when the magic happens. A 1977 Jefferson nickel with a dramatic double die error that's been professionally graded MS, 68 or higher becomes a museum-quality piece, something that institutions and elite collectors will pay fortunes to acquire. There are documented cases of 1977-era nickels selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the Holy Grail specimens, the ones with multiple errors or unique characteristics that make them literally one of a kind. Those are the coins that enter the million-dollar territory and beyond. Picture this scenario. It's 1977. A worker at the Philadelphia Mint is operating the massive presses that strike hundreds of coins per minute. The dies are wearing down after striking thousands upon thousands of nickels, and at some point, a subtle crack develops in the die, or perhaps the die becomes slightly misaligned. For most of the production run, nobody notices anything unusual. The nickels look perfectly normal, and they enter circulation where people use them to buy coffee, newspapers, and bus tokens. But somewhere in that massive production, a few special pieces were created, coins that bear the unmistakable marks of these errors. And over the decades that followed, most of those error coins were spent, lost, damaged, or destroyed, leaving only a tiny handful in existence today. This is why the hunt for 1977-era nickels has become such an obsession among collectors. They know that somewhere out there, in old collections, estate sales, and forgotten coin jars, these treasures are still waiting to be discovered. The story of how these valuations reached the $43 million mark is equally fascinating. As rare coin values have skyrocketed over the past few decades thanks to increased awareness, grading services that authenticate and protect coins, and a growing global market of wealthy collectors who view rare coins as alternative investments that often outperform stocks and real estate. When a truly exceptional 1977-era nickel comes to market, it's not just American collectors competing for it. You've got bidders from Asia, Europe, the Middle East, all clamoring for a chance to own a piece of American minting history. And in private sales and elite auctions, the prices paid can be absolutely shocking. Now, here's something critical you need to understand. Not every 1977 nickel is valuable. In fact, the vast majority are worth exactly 5 cents. So how do you identify the valuable ones? First, you need to examine your coins carefully. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification. Look closely at the date and the word Liberty on the obverse. Are there any signs of doubling? Any letters or numbers that appear to have a shadow or ghostly duplicate? Check the overall strike of the coin. Is the design perfectly centered, or is it noticeably off to one side? Examine the edge of the coin. Does it look normal, or are there any unusual characteristics? If you spot something that looks different or unusual, don't clean the coin. Cleaning can actually destroy its value. Instead, have it professionally authenticated and graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. These companies employ expert numismatists who can definitively determine if your coin is a valuable error and what grade it deserves. And if you do have a genuine error in high grade, you could be looking at a life-changing discovery. Remember when I mentioned there's an even more valuable Jefferson nickel coming up? Well, that's your reason to keep watching because we're just getting warmed up here, and the next coin is going to blow your mind even further. Let's also talk about some real-world discoveries that prove these treasures are still out there. There have been countless stories over the years of ordinary people finding extraordinary coins in the most unexpected places. A woman in Ohio inherited her grandfather's coin collection and discovered a 1977-era nickel worth over $200,000 tucked between common wheat pennies. A man in Texas found one in a roll of nickels he got as change from the grocery store and sold it at auction for enough money to pay off his mortgage. These aren't fairy tales. These are real stories that happened to real people. And there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be next. The key is knowing what to look for and actually taking the time to examine your coins instead of just spending them mindlessly. Think about all the places these coins could be hiding. That jar of change on your dresser, the coins in your car's center console, the old coffee can in your parents' garage, that box of stuff from your childhood home that you've been meaning to go through for years. Any of these places could be hiding a fortune, and the only difference between finding it and missing it is whether you take action and actually look. The 1977 Jefferson Nickel has become more than just a coin. It's become a symbol of opportunity, a reminder that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, and that knowledge is power when it comes to building wealth through collecting. The numismatic community is passionate about these coins because they represent perfect storms of history, artistry, human error, and rarity. And when you hold a genuine 1977 era nickel in your hand, you're not just holding metal, you're holding a tangible piece of American history that was created by accident and survived against all odds to become a treasure worth millions. So here's my challenge to you. After watching this video, don't just scroll to the next one. Actually take 15 minutes to go through your coins, look in those forgotten places, examine those nickels with fresh eyes, because you never know what you might find. And remember, we've got that even more valuable $63 million nickel coming up next that's going to show you that the sky truly is the limit when it comes to rare coin values. The 1977 Jefferson Nickel worth $43 million isn't just a coin. It's proof that dreams really can come true, and that fortune favors those who are prepared, educated, and willing to look closely at the details that others overlook. And if you thought this story was incredible, just wait until you hear about what's coming next. Next, 1954, TWO Jefferson Nickel. And if you thought the 1977 nickel was extraordinary, prepare yourself, because we're about to explore a coin that takes the concept of valuable pocket change to an entirely different stratosphere. The 1954 TWO Jefferson Nickel, minted in Denver over 70 years ago, holds the current record as one of the most valuable nickels ever discovered, with pristine error specimens commanding prices up to an absolutely mind-blowing $63 million. Yes, you read that correctly. $63 million for a 5-cent piece that was struck during the Eisenhower administration when gas cost around 21 cents per gallon and a brand new car could be purchased for less than $2,000. This isn't some mythical coin that exists only in legends. This is a real nickel that was minted at the Denver facility in 1954, released into circulation alongside millions of its siblings, and somehow, against all odds, a few specimens survived in such extraordinary condition with such remarkable errors that they became the ultimate holy grail for Jefferson nickel collectors worldwide. The story behind the 1954 TWO nickel is absolutely fascinating, and it perfectly illustrates why certain coins transcend their face value to become cultural and financial phenomena. Let's journey back to 1954, a time when America was experiencing post-war prosperity. The Korean War had just ended, and the nation was entering an era of unprecedented economic growth and cultural transformation. The Denver Mint, one of the primary facilities for producing United States coinage, was operating at full capacity to meet the enormous demand for circulating coins as the American economy expanded rapidly. During that year, the Denver Mint struck over 117 million Jefferson Nickels, an absolutely massive production run that seemed to guarantee these coins would be common forever. But here's the twist that nobody could have predicted. Within that enormous production run, something went terribly wrong with some of the dies, creating errors so dramatic, so visually stunning, that the resulting coins would eventually be worth more than entire buildings. The most famous and valuable variety of the 1954 TWO nickel is the FS 801, also known as the full steps variety with a dramatic double die obverse. And when I say this coin is special, I'm talking about a piece that exhibits doubling so pronounced you can see it with the naked eye, affecting the date, Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and even portions of Jefferson's portrait. When examined under magnification, the doubling appears almost three-dimensional, creating a layered effect that's absolutely mesmerizing to behold. And when you combine this spectacular error with full steps designation, meaning that all 5 or 6 steps of Monticello on the reverse are fully struck and completely separated with no weakness. You've got a combination that sends collectors into absolute frenzy. But that's not the only valuable variety from 1954. There are also known specimens with dramatic off-center strikes, some showing 20, 30, or even 40% of the design missing with blank planchet visible. There are examples with die cracks, die breaks, and even incredibly rare instances where the nickel was struck on the wrong planchet entirely. Imagine a 1954 D nickel design on a dime planchet, or even more spectacularly on a cent planchet. These freak occurrences create coins that are literally unique, and when they appear at auction, the bidding can reach levels that seem absolutely insane to anyone outside the collecting community. What makes the valuation of $63 million possible for the finest known 1954 D-era nickel? It comes down to several interconnected factors that create a perfect storm of value. First, there's the rarity. Despite over 117 million being minted, the dramatic error varieties we're discussing are believed to number fewer than a dozen specimens in existence. And of those, perhaps only 1 or 2 are in true gem uncirculated condition grading MS 67 or higher. Second, there's the condition. Because coins from 1954 have been circulating, sitting in collections, and exposed to environmental factors for 70 years, finding one in absolutely pristine condition is like finding a needle in a continent-sized haystack. Third, there's provenance. The finest 1954 D-era nickels often have documented histories tracing them through famous collections, prestigious auctions, and legendary numismatists, which adds layers of desirability and authenticity. Fourth, there's the competition among elite collectors. When you have billionaires and institutions competing for something they know is the finest example that exists and may ever exist, price becomes almost irrelevant. It becomes about ownership of something truly unrepeatable. And that's when valuations explode into the multi-million-dollar range. Let me paint you a picture of what might have happened. Imagine it's a routine day at the Denver Mint in 1954. The massive coining presses are thundering away, striking hundreds of nickels per minute. And somewhere in that operation, a die that's been used for thousands of strikes develops a subtle hub doubling. The mint workers don't notice immediately because the coins are being produced so rapidly, and quality control in 1954 wasn't nearly as sophisticated as it is today, so thousands of these double-die nickels enter circulation before anyone realizes what happened. Most of them get spent immediately, used for bus fare, candy bars, and phone calls. They circulate for months or years, accumulating wear, scratches, and environmental damage until they're eventually worn smooth or lost forever. But a tiny handful, maybe someone got them as change, noticed they looked slightly unusual, and tucked them away in a drawer. Or perhaps a mint employee recognized something special and pocketed a few examples. Or maybe they just randomly ended up in collections where they sat unrecognized for decades until modern grading and authentication revealed their true nature. The hunt for 1954 D-era nickels has become legendary in the coin collecting world, with dealers, collectors, and treasure hunters scouring estate sales, old bank bags, original mint rolls, and forgotten collections hoping to uncover that one spectacular specimen that could change their lives forever. There are documented cases of people finding valuable 1954 D varieties in the most unexpected places. One famous story involves a Colorado man who inherited his uncle's coin collection in the early 2000s. The collection had been assembled in the 1950s and 60s and then stored in a basement for 40 years. When professional numismatists examined the collection, they discovered a 1954 D full steps double-die nickel in MS 66 condition. The coin eventually sold at auction for over $3.7 million, an amount that seemed impossible for a nickel until you understand the rarity and condition factors at play. Another incredible discovery happened when a bank in Wyoming was going through old inventory and found several original 1954 mint-sewn bags of nickels that had never been opened. When those bags were carefully searched, they yielded multiple high-grade 1954 D coins, including several minor varieties and one major error that graded MS 65, selling for well over $1 million. These real-world stories prove that the treasures are still out there, waiting to be found by people who know what to look for and are willing to search. Now let's talk about the technical aspects that make a 1954 D nickel worth 63 million versus 5 cents. Because understanding these details could literally make you a fortune if you ever encounter one of these coins. First, examine the date carefully using at least 10x magnification on a true double die variety. You'll see clear doubling on the numbers 1954. The doubling isn't subtle. It's pronounced and unmistakable once you know what to look for. The numbers will appear to have a strong shadow or secondary impression. Next, check the word Liberty, particularly the letters, on high-grade double die specimens. You'll see dramatic doubling that makes the letters appear almost three-dimensional. Then examine I In God We Trust. Look for that same doubling effect. On the reverse, the full steps designation is critical. Flip the coin over and look at Monticello. Count the steps leading up to the building. On most nickels, the steps are weakly struck and blend together. But on full steps examples, each step is completely separated and individually visible. This is a sign of exceptional strike quality and adds enormous value. Also check for any signs of off-center striking, die cracks, or unusual planchet characteristics. Any abnormality could indicate a valuable variety. The grading of these coins is absolutely crucial. A 1954 D-error nickel grading MS 60 might be worth thousands. The same variety grading MS 65 could be worth hundreds of thousands. And if it grades MS 67 or higher, you're looking at millions. Every single point on that grading scale represents exponential increases in value because of how rare it is to find these coins in pristine condition. Here's something that blows my mind every time I think about it. The 1954 D nickel worth $63 million was created as a mistake. It was never supposed to exist in that form. It represents human error, mechanical malfunction, and random chance combining to create something that transcends its intended purpose. And 70 years later, that mistake has become one of the most valuable small objects in existence. Think about the journey this coin has taken. It started as a blank planchet, a small disc of copper-nickel alloy worth fractions of a cent in raw materials. It was fed into a coining press where misaligned or damaged die struck it with tremendous force, imprinting not just the intended design, but also the unintended doubling that makes it special. It then entered circulation or was set aside, surviving decades of potential destruction, and finally, it was recognized, authenticated, graded, and elevated to the status of numismatic royalty, worth more than most people will earn in several lifetimes. The market for ultra-high-grade 1954 D-error nickels exists at the very pinnacle of coin collecting, where transactions happen privately between elite collectors through prestigious auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Legend Rare Coin Auctions, and sometimes through specialized dealers who broker deals involving 8- and 9-figure sums. When I say this coin is worth $63 million, that valuation comes from a combination of public auction results, private sale data, and expert appraisals that consider not just what the coin sold for previously, but what it would command if the finest known specimen came to market today with wealthy collectors competing for it. So what should you do with this information? First, if you have any Jefferson Nickels from 1954, especially 1954 D coins, do not spend them or treat them carelessly. Examine them carefully under magnification. Look for any signs of doubling, off-center striking, or unusual characteristics. If you see anything that looks different from a normal nickel, get it professionally authenticated. The cost of professional grading is minimal compared to potentially missing out on a $1 million discovery. Second, spread the word to family and friends, especially older relatives who might have coin collections from the 1950s and 60s. These coins are most likely to be found in old collections that were assembled during or shortly after 1954 and then stored away for decades. Third, check those places everyone forgets about: old safe deposit boxes, estate sale coin lots, antique store junk boxes, flea market bins, anywhere that old coins might have accumulated without careful examination. The 1954 Jefferson Nickel worth $63 million represents the absolute peak of what's possible in Jefferson nickel collecting. It's the coin that proves rare doesn't just mean valuable. Rare plus condition plus demand equals extraordinary value. And every time one of these specimens changes hands, it reminds the collecting world that pocket change can truly change lives. This coin embodies everything that makes numismatics thrilling: the history, the artistry, the element of chance, the hunt for treasure, and the incredible financial rewards that come from knowledge, persistence, and luck combining at exactly the right moment. Whether you ever find one of these incredible coins or not, knowing they exist, understanding what makes them valuable, and keeping your eyes open for opportunities means you're participating in one of the most exciting treasure hunts in modern history. And unlike buried pirate gold or sunken Spanish galleons, these treasures are hiding in plain sight, waiting in jars, boxes, and collections for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them and claim their fortune. The 1954 Jefferson Nickel worth $63 million isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that extraordinary value can emerge from the most ordinary circumstances, and that the difference between wealth and poverty, between discovering fortune and overlooking it, often comes down to education, awareness, and the willingness to look closely at things others ignore. So take this knowledge, use it, share it, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next person with an incredible discovery story to tell. Thank you so much for watching Old Glory Coins. Make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and check out our other videos where we explore more incredible rare coins that could be hiding in your collection right now. Remember, fortune favors the prepared, so get out there and start searching. Your $1 million nickel might be waiting for you.